state for now. Minnesota and the Twin Cities are suing the Trump administration. They argue the federal government is usurping constitutional state powers. They also allege ICE agents are using excessive force. Judge Catherine Menendez says not imposing a preliminary injunction isn't a prejudgment. The defense didn't immediately respond to the injunction request. The Trump administration says ICE is making cities safer. President Trump praised the judge's ruling in a Truth Social post today, saying, "The great patriots of law enforcement will continue to make our country safe." And to discuss developments relating to Minnesota and tensions with federal law enforcement, joining us is Taylor Hathorn, visiting fellow at the Independent Women's Center for American Safety and Security. Taylor, good afternoon. Always good to see you. So tensions are high, of course. Trump is threatening the Insurrection Act if state officials fail to stop the violence against ICE agents. How could using the Insurrection Act impact the situation on the ground, in your view?
I mean, I think we've seen that regrettably, the only way that things are getting better in this country right now is when the federal government is involved. And that makes me ill to say as a small government minded person. But the reality on the ground is that the leadership at the state and local levels in these blue states that purport sanctuary city policies are doing nothing to help themselves. I've seen so many of my friends on social media the last couple of days that are just absolutely missing the mark on what is happening in these cities and with these ICE raids. And it's really disappointing the role that the leadership and the elected officials are playing in these areas to continue to incite this violence and to stir up these agitators. And the people that I really think about in this scenario are not the protesters and are also admittedly not the ICE agents. I think about the normal, average, everyday American citizen in Minneapolis who's sitting there going, what in the world is going on here?
And Taylor, what you're saying is echoed, I think, pretty closely by a post by Vice President J.D. Vance. And that post highlighted, it pointed out on X that you're only seeing chaotic ICE raids in blue sanctuary cities. That's what the vice president is saying. And he's saying that the chaos is created by leaders who promote rioting. Can you just talk a bit more about what role you think state leadership plays in all this?
Certainly. I'd like to point out that in my home states of Texas and Tennessee, both, I claim both of them, San Antonio has had over 21,000 peaceful deportations in the last 7 months. And the city of Memphis, where some of my family lives, has had about 6,000 deportations with no incident, because the law enforcement and the local leadership, even if they are Democrats, especially if they are Democrats in these states, many times are saying, look, we want this to be resolved. We want our citizens to maintain safety and security. They're not trying to get up on a podium and incite any kind of violence. What the mayor said of Minneapolis today, or I believe it was yesterday, when he was talking about how, it is just not against our morals to have people come in from the outside and inflict this kind of pain on our communities. And how else do you expect Minnesotans to react? Well, why can't the same be said about when mass populace of illegal immigrants come into this country and disrupt the rule of law and the law and order that you see for many of these peaceful families in this country? And I don't understand why the mayor does not believe that the people who are law-abiding in his city are allowed and afforded the same rights as the immigrants who are there illegally.
Can you give us your view as well as to what you think the media has done about this situation, or has influenced or affected this situation?
I want to shout out a couple of people that I think have been doing a really good job. Bill Malugin from Fox News is actually one of the best reporters that I believe we have in the business right now, reporting on immigration issues in this country. And he's actually putting up good factual data and statistics so that the American people can see that the people that we are deporting are not just grandmothers, making food in, their kitchens and being picked up by these ICE agents. It is real hardened criminals, and not even just suspected criminals. They are convicted criminals. And I believe in the media, the freedom of the media. I believe the media should be asking questions, but I don't necessarily believe that it's the media's role to force a certain narrative on the viewers. And the reality is that is what is happening here in this situation and in so many other situations that we've seen. The media should be reporting the facts. And then if you want to have commentators come on like me who have opinions, who want to give their opinions for the weight that might be worth, then great. But to have legacy media come on and state that DHS or that ICE or that the federal government is doing something illegal and unconstitutional without giving any kind of validity or evidence therein, it's really dangerous. And it's causing incitement. A lot of these are going out there because they look at people on CNN and they go, well, that person on CNN I've been watching for years. And if they say it's illegal and unconstitutional, then why, of course, wouldn't it be? And so I'm going to go out there and put my life and my safety at risk and put myself in front of a car of an officer, put a shovel in my hand to try to hit an ICE officer and expect a different outcome. I blame the media so much for this. And I blame the elected officials who are sitting there showing people that they are above the law.
Okay, speaking about reporting the facts, I want to cite a report by the Epoch Times, which said Minneapolis has seen weeks of organized reports aimed at disrupting ICE operations. And that includes thousands of protesters targeting hotels where they suspected ICE agents were staying at. So these are the facts. And a Minneapolis-based activist group, Sunshine Twin Cities, or rather Sunrise Twin Cities, circulated weekly lists of hotels. Can I just ask you, where do you draw the line between peaceful protests versus obstructing federal law enforcement?
I think the line is when it no longer becomes peaceful. I mean, think about the people who work in the lobby of those hotels. Like, they're not even ICE agents. They're regular citizens working a $9 an hour job who are having to sit there and go, wow, if someone breaches these doors, I'm probably going to get hurt. That is unfair and that is unjust and that is not a peaceful protest. We were talking about the Insurrection Act at the top of the hour, and I've seen so many people say, this is a dictatorial move. 37% of presidents in this nation have had to invoke the Insurrection Act at one point or another. And it's not because people like me and you were going out on the street filming something on our cell phones that we disagree with, that was an overreaching and excessive force of a law enforcement officer. That is not what this is about. It is about stopping organized groups who are standing up against the federal laws that we have in this nation. If you have issue with the federal laws that are imposed in this nation, you go to your congressman. There are avenues to do that. We live in the greatest country on this earth. There is nowhere else in the world that you can go through the process of amending a law like you can in the United States of America without fearing major retribution. So go through the normal protocols. I'm not saying that that I am right about everything and that every ICE officer is doing their exact duty and that there are not misuses of power. I'm not saying that isn't occurring. If it's occurring, record it. The View talked about this the other day. Cheryl did actually a really good job on this, where she said you should get out there, and if you see something you don't like, record it and hold them accountable and go through the proper procedures. But to get out there and start threatening people and to act like you are above the law means that you don't respect the laws of this nation. And the reality is that the laws that ICE is enforcing, the policies that ICE is enforcing, are the current laws of the nation. And if you don't like it, there are avenues to change it. But abusing and hurting other people who are carrying out the laws of this nation is not the way to go.
Yeah, that's an important point. These ICE officers are just doing their job, right? If you want to change the law, talk to lawmakers, protest to lawmakers. You don't target people who are just following
100%.
orders. Yeah.
I have a good friend of mine, ICE officer, and every day I think about him, and I know him, I know his character, and I think about what he goes through. And I actually know his politics too, and I don't think that his politics are aligned with mine. And I think about people like that who are just doing their jobs, and it makes you wonder, why do their lives not hold as much value as the immigrants that they are deporting?
Okay, well, Taylor, well said. Thank you so much for speaking with us today.
Thanks, Don.
A top ICE official is resigning to run for Congress. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Deputy Director Madison Sheehan